by that time, I was so fatigued with my life, trying to make it work, not understanding what to do next. I had nothing in me left to give that business. And I said to myself, to the intelligence of life, higher consciousness that's always with us, just said, listen, I'm going to let it go if it needs to go, or I'm just going to let go of even thinking what's going to happen with it, what's going to happen with me. I'm going to trust that life is going to guide me to where I need to be. What am I going to bring to this life? What am I going to create? What do I want? And this fire was saying, what does life want? What does life need? So when we actually ask, what does life want of me? Then it will start to show you.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast with your host, Leigh Brandon. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and a warm review. Your opinions are important, and your ratings help grow the podcast and help educate people to lead a healthier, more productive, fulfilling and happy life. If video is your thing, please check out the Radical Health Rebel YouTube channel, where you'll find fun bite-sized clips from each episode. And now, here is Leigh, the Radical Health Rebel, with this week's podcast.
Laurie Lathom-Sharp, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Nice to be here, Leigh. Good morning.
It's great to be here, isn't it? And it's good to talk to you again. It's been a while since we've had a good chat. I think in Trafalgar Square last time we had a good chat.
Been in Trafalgar Square, rabble-rousing a little bit, and standing our ground.
Waiting to get beaten up by the riot police of London.
Narrowly avoided that, actually.
It was narrowly avoided, wasn't it? Very narrowly avoided. Awesome. So today's episode is entitled Transformation with Laurie Lathom-Sharp. Now, we certainly are living in a time of transformation. We have non-elected global technocrats rolling out a plan across the world that no one voted for, and it would seem have the power to stop. Or do we? Could our current predicament be the greatest opportunity to transform our lives for the better, and if so, how? In this week's episode, I will delve deep into how we can all possibly turn a crisis into an opportunity of transformation with the former food entrepreneur, Laurie Lathom-Sharp. So, Laurie, to kick things off, would you mind sharing a little bit about you, your upbringing, your professional career, and also your journey that led you to turning your own crisis into a transformation?
Yeah, wow. Where do I begin? Where do I end?
At the beginning.
At the beginning, always a good place. Okay, yeah, I mean, the thing about my story is there's some slightly remarkable things, I guess, about it, but it's also a very normal sort of story. A lot of people, particularly from our sort of generation, but probably even modern day, it's probably a story that will relate to them because it was a very conventional upbringing. You know, it wasn't particularly special. I was my childhood was particularly in sort of 80s, 90s. You know, that was my core era. Born in the late 70s, and so born into the time where, you know, we go to school, we're educated, you know, go home, have a few hobbies, watch a bit of TV, go back to school. You know, you behave yourself, you get your grades, you make it to the next level of education. You're a good boy or good girl, and that's what you expected. And throughout the education, you know, you're told, well, if you do this and you do that, and you behave and you sit in your seat, and you know, then your life will succeed in a way. You know, you'll get to a point where you'll go into the wide world, you'll get a job, you'll be in that job for many years. You'll meet someone, you'll probably get married, you'll probably have kids, you'll probably, you know, retire someday, have a lovely few years, and then you'll pop your clogs. And, you know, I mean, that really is it. And so that was me, you know, lived with my parents, my brother and me. and contented lifestyle, particularly the 80s, still a favourite decade of mine. Life, especially compared to today, was so simple. You know what I mean? Ignorance is bliss, as they say. So I had a really happy childhood that I remember up until I was about 12 years old, when I went into my secondary school. And then I just struggled. I just really struggled. And I think for me, I didn't realise why I was struggling. And I thought I was just badly behaved, a bit hyperactive. And so I started to get in trouble, being put on report a lot. But I'd make my way through. I'd get by. I wouldn't get kicked out or anything like that. But it was difficult. But I made it through, sixth form just about. I enjoyed my sports. That's the thing that saved me. I love the physical aspect, played a lot of rugby, and got into the typical teenage life of boozing and girls and all that, whilst, getting to university, continuing in that, getting through university again by the skin of my teeth, and then popping out into the big wide world. And, that's where I really want to start, because, I get into the big wide world of new career. This is the beginning of the promised land. This is the be all and end all. Going to get some money, going to become a real man, an adult, and this is where it all begins. This is where, like, the education. This is where I've been guided to this point. And I step out into my new job as a salesman, an advertising salesman in London, and I'm like, is this it? Is this it? Like, I was 22 by the time I got this job. And most of those years being geared up on this path throughout education to get to this point of this job. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was very unhappy. And I was probably very unhappy in many ways before that as well. Especially when I went into that secondary school at the age of 12. A bit of a wave, some times were better than others, but really, I feel the path that I went down was just narrowing who I was, just boxing me in more and more and more. The more we went down that path, came out the womb, expansive, here's life, wow, And then it's like, okay, yeah, but you go down this path, go down this path, go down this path. And so I go down this path and I arrive in this tiny little box into the big wide world of London town as a salesman. And I'm like, is this it? But then I didn't even really realise I was asking myself that question. But because the other part of me was so indoctrinated and programmed with how life should be and that this is it, that I was like, okay, well, let's make this work then. And if it's not working for me, then there must be something wrong with me. Mm. And there was a part of myself that knew that it wasn't working, that I wasn't very happy. I shouldn't be in this position. It didn't suit me. But as with many of us, and with many of the times before, I would convince myself that it was my fault that this life wasn't working for me. That it was just that I was wrong, or I was badly behaved, or I was lazy, or I was not very competent at my job, or I just needed to work on my personality to fit into this life and with all these people that I was surrounded by. And to do that, booze would help me a lot. It was like work hard, play hard, all that bollocks really was the line of the time. And so, I'd be numbing myself and unhappiness and the questions I was probably asking myself with lots of drinking as we do, throughout university, throughout, for many of our years, especially in the British culture. And then that turned into taking drugs sort of from my mid-20s for a few years and getting into that as well, just typical sort of ecstasy, bit of cocaine, bit of this and that. And to be fair, in a way, there were some great times, some great fun to be had. But my body was starting to break down on me, as was my mental health, from just being in the wrong place, trying to push myself into the wrong life, which I've been slowly but surely forced into over the years up until then. And so I was in London doing those sorts of jobs for a few years, and I didn't even realize how bad my health was getting. But I'd wake up in the morning and it would take me hours to get out of bed. And even then I could hardly speak for hours in the morning or function. And eventually, getting into my mid-20s and a bit later, my self-confidence was going, my energy was going, just basic functioning was going, and to hold up a job was really difficult. And I was still trying to make these sales jobs, advertising sales jobs, work for me. And I'd hide behind my computer. I'd just try and get by each day and hide from everyone, really, from seeing the absolute failure that I felt I was, and that my performance was really showing me to be as well, because I just did not take to this sales environment and advertising. In the end, I got the best job, my dream job in advertising at the sort of age of 26, 27. But again, I just was not functioning. And after 6 months, I was just given the boot. And I must say, throughout these years, up until this point, 26, 27, although I knew that I wasn't functioning particularly well, maybe I wasn't even aware of that. I got to this point where it was like, I've had this dream job, something's just not going right here. I got to take some stock of where I am and what needs to go on from here. So I had a couple of little part-time jobs, and I found myself on the set of a Coca-Cola advert, actually, doing some extras work, strangely enough. And it was here I bumped into a chap who was a personal trainer, who actually made me aware that even at the ripe old age of 26 or 27, that I could retrain into something that would be much more in alignment with me, because I was always into sports activity, something I was good at, and it just felt good. So suddenly the lights went on. I was like, well, here we go. I'm going there. Did all the training, got into personal training, and as soon as I got sort of one of my first jobs, so actually one of my first jobs in personal training, I was introduced by a friend of ours, actually Stu Peach, to Paul Check's work. And this is going back to 2004 now. I was about 27, 28. Introduced me to things like gluten, dairy and the problems with that, the energy issues with all that, and just the whole sort of holistic perspective of health. And so I started to slowly work on mine and see some differences. But it was when I got to Brighton, I worked at LA Fitness down there, that is, I met what would you call her? A nutritionist, but a very holistic sort of approach to nutrition and well-being. And we were going to work together on some packages. And in the end, she was the one who really opened my eyes to the state of my health and how bad it was. And it was a funny sort of dichotomy of stepping into personal training, this bright-eyed, healthy individual meant to be, there to encourage and motivate others. And yet at the same time, when I'm going to be portraying this person and being this person for other people, I realized how bad my own health was and what I was suffering with. And so I had to start really working on myself, because I was propping myself up with a double espresso before every client. I was just drinking espresso throughout the day. I was just pushing myself as hard as I could, because I was suffering from chronic fatigue and multiple environmental sensitivities, food and sensitivities and intolerances. I could hardly eat anything without it affecting me, and it would knock me on my back and really kick off the chronic fatigue. And I would have to struggle to get up and get into my job. And I'd have to prop myself up with caffeine and all sorts. And it was from here that I had to change my life. But, it took me until the age of 40 to think I've really got a handle on it now. It took me, 12, 13 years to really get to a place of getting a handle on it. And it's been a long story, but essentially I went and saw doctors. I went and asked them what was going on because, as soon as I realized what was going on, as soon as I started to unravel it a little bit, it got worse before it got better. And I had to go into a life whereby I had to stop eating a lot of what I was eating. I had to just basically eat brown rice and chicken and some vegetables. Even the brown rice would kick things off every now and again. I had to be very mindful of that. I had to stop, obviously, drinking. I had to stop lots of things. I had to completely stop my social life. I had to really go into the cave. And I just found myself very alone in my own bedroom, trying to work everything out, researching everything. And after another few years, come to about the age of 33, so I'd been aware of these health issues for a while. I've been working on them for a while. And now at the age of 33, I've been working, actually I've gone back into a recruitment job because my energy, my health just could not sustain a personal training job. And so, so friends of mine had launched a recruitment company and I managed to get a job with them because it allowed me just really to sit at a desk and have a little bit more control over my life, but also gain some money, which I could then invest into solving my issues and working with people. But having found my passion and purpose, my path in life, which was health and healing and well-being, obviously life had other plans for me. And age of 33, 2008, 9, suddenly the economy crashed. So I lost that job. I moved out of London down to Bristol, didn't have any money, had loads of debts, I still suffering from chronic fatigue, which was even worse with the stress. I couldn't get a job. I went into voluntary bankruptcy, which was the only path for me. And then within 2 months, my dad had died of cancer. So my whole world collapsed around me at the age of about 33. And I found myself in this studio flat in the middle of Bristol, contending with chronic fatigue, my health issues, not knowing where to go in my career, how to earn money, having lost one of my stabilizing wheels, my father, who, was a real support to me in many times, especially in times of crisis. And I just was in this dark night of the soul. I was in really, a pit that I could not scrabble out of. And I just had to sit within it for many months and allow life to sort of guide me out of it, really. And it was from that time, really, that then things started to come to me. Ideas started to come to me, but it was more that I was there empty-handed now. I had nothing. What could I do but just to sort of let go a little bit and take the opportunities that came to me now, because I could not think my way out of this. But suddenly an opportunity came. Well, I looked into fermented foods. I was still working my health, still spending all the time I could, any resources I had, researching my health, what's going on with me, but health in general, using myself as a guinea pig. And I read a couple of books, one by Sally Fallon, Nourishing Traditions, another one, The Gut Ecology Diet, I think it's called, by Donna Gates, I think. They both recommended fermented foods. So I was like, okay, let's get some fermented foods. And by that time, actually at that time, I could not find any in the shops. So I thought to myself, right, I'm going to make my own. So I started making my own, making some kefir at home. Then I thought, well, I'll maybe do a farmer's market, see if I can make any money at a farmer's market. But as life would have it, I ended up bumping into one person who introduced me to another person who had the same idea but wanted to make fermented foods into a business. We worked together for about 6 months, but actually he didn't really pull his weight, so we split. By that time, I'd got my ducks in a row, found a supplier, found this, that, the other, and thought, I'm just going to do it myself, And that was about 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, when I started Laurie's Tummy Loving Foods. So really, to cut a long story short, I was on the wrong path for much of my life. You could say the right one because, there's no such thing as right or wrong, really. It is just life. And you have to go through some difficult things to learn often. But when I found my purposeful path, it was because of my health issues. If I'd not had those, I wouldn't have been directed to find my true path, which isn't the health and healing arena. And from that, I wouldn't have created the business that I created, which has taken me on an amazing journey, obviously, of learning about business creation, entrepreneurialism, but also that business gave me a foundation to help me travel and work remotely for the last 5 years, which, work really sometimes, because I created quite a systemized business. Yeah, for the last 5 or 6 years, especially sort of traveling and working a couple of hours a week and often. I'm not saying that's the best way to work all the time, but it certainly gave me then the time and the resources to spend that time traveling and researching even deeper, more now I guess my journey from the very beginning, when I was working with clients as a personal trainer, I'd see these people who came in and they told me what they wanted: to get slimmer, to get fitter, stronger, whatever it may be. But when I'd help them and guide them into what they need to do that, they wouldn't do it, or they'd sabotage themselves, or however it would be. And from that point, I'd just be wanting to know, what is the real reason that people are not doing this? What's the real reason in me? What's the deeper root of this either self-sabotage or this just not being able to truly get ourselves to do what we want, and what we know to be good for us in many cases. And it's just been, my journey has been deeper and deeper and deeper to those root causes, to a point whereby a lot of my work now has gone into the very deep sort of spiritual realms in terms of when I say that, connecting with more the unseen influences as well, which can have an effect. And yeah, it's been very interesting. So now, it's a long story, but I'll go into the next part, because that was really my major transformational period. And that was the major crisis, was my own ill health. But I was very fortunate that the conventional medical establishment could not tell me what was wrong. I had the blood work of an anorexic for many years. They took a lump puncture out my hip. They tested me for leukemia, because that was what how my blood work was. So it's obvious I was having such terrible health problems. But they couldn't help me, which was great, because I couldn't get caught into that medical system, which is really typically, I'm not saying in the acute phase of, injury, help with people's injuries and acute phases of disease, they're not helpful. They are. And there's a way to use the medical establishment. But typically it's about symptom suppression, and it's about disease management, and it's about disease. It's not about health, really. And what I went into was actually how to bring health back to my being, rather than just how to suppress the symptoms. And that's true healing.
Yeah. What was it that motivated you to travel?
A girl, probably.
Okay.
Pretty much the case, often. No, well, there's another period, but I'll go into that because it links into this. But essentially, I built my business up in quite a conventional way as well, and I was always probably aiming to have my own house, my car, relationship, and that typical model of success, material success, a business that paid me and was doing well. And so I built my business up over a few years to that point where I was renting this beautiful house on the river in Buckinghamshire here. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Had a car, just met a girl, business was doing well, pay myself a nice salary. And this girl who I'd met was American. She had to actually go back to America after 6 months on her visa. And by that time I was hook, line and sinkers, But when she had to go back, I realized how bored I was in these trappings of life. And it's a good phrase, these trappings. I'm not saying it's all bad. We need a certain element of safety and security, perhaps. But it were trappings for me. Again, it was a square house, the square house, watching a square box, in a square life, driving a square vehicle. Everything, a box is a really, really good sort of metaphor for how life is created these days. You can simply look at that and look at your life and think, is a box really what we want to be living in many ways? But for me, continue that story, I realized how my life was not what I wanted it to be, even though I'd reached that level of material success. And so I packed up the house, I sold my belongings, and headed off with my then partner. And I've been traveling ever since, spending lots of periods of time in different places. Take me to meet with many amazing people, have amazing experiences, and really delve more deeply into my being, into my soul, and into my life, and to create the life that I truly am here to lead, and the experiences I'm truly here to have, to gain the knowledge that I'm here to now share.
You're listening to the Radical Health Rebel podcast.
Are you regularly suffering from painful bloating and wind that can be smelly and embarrassing? Are your bowel movements not as they should be, either constipation or diarrhea, or possibly alternating between the two? Do you find the pain is bad enough, but the bloating and cramps make you feel awful and are affecting your everyday life? Do you sometimes feel you can't eat properly because of the wind, bloating and pain? And has your doctor told you that you have IBS, but unable to help find you a solution? Do you feel right now that you simply don't know what's causing your symptoms, and whatever your doctor has suggested hasn't worked, and you feel frustrated that you're still far from having a normal, flat, comfortable tummy? Have you invested a lot of time, energy and money into improving your symptoms and don't wish to waste any more? Do you feel frustrated and depressed and don't feel like you can take part in all the activities you enjoy, and sometimes have to cancel attending events because of the way your tummy feels? Do you fear that if you don't get this sorted, you could end up with a much more serious gastrointestinal disease? Well, if so, what would help you right now is to understand the root cause of your digestive condition, rather than continuing to try to mask the symptoms with over-the-counter or prescribed medications. You need help understanding how factors such as nutrition, gut health, stress, and toxicology affect the digestive system, and how to optimize these factors. You need someone who can advise, motivate, and support you every step of the way, someone who has walked the path before and taught many others to do the same. What you need is my Overcome Your Digestive Issues program. My Overcome Your Digestive Issues program can help you in the following ways. I will help you understand the root causes of your digestive problems and teach you how to approach the condition holistically via expert advice on nutrition and lifestyle factors. The Overcome Your Digestive Issues program will start by ensuring you are on the right diet for you based on your genetics or metabolic type, and one that avoids the foods that are known to exacerbate your condition. We'll go on a journey step by step, learning all the necessary lifestyle changes required to achieve a flat, comfortable, pain-free tummy. Each weekly 30-minute coaching session will include advice, support and guidance specifically tailored to your needs and at a speed that is right for you. Once you're eating right for your metabolic type, you will begin to see changes in how your tummy feels, and we will also uncover all the necessary blocking factors that you may have, and you'll be taught how to reduce, replace, or eliminate all the factors that are causing your digestive problems. Ultimately, this program will enable you to achieve a flat, calm, and comfortable tummy every day for the rest of your life. For more information about how to improve your gut health and to claim a complimentary, no-obligation gut health consultation, please go to www.bodycheck.co.uk, that's BODYCHEK, and fill in the request form at the top of the homepage, and we'll be in contact to arrange a convenient time. Now, back to the podcast. So, I'm just going to say, the important question at this stage, I guess, before we go any further, is what is transformation and why do we need to be aware of it?
Yeah, it's a good point, because I wasn't, up until the last couple of years, really aware of transformation as such such a fundamental process of nature and of the human experience as well. Transformation, for me, is really an intense period of change. That's how I say it. And this is who I'm here to work with. That's how I sum it up. I'm here to work with people who are going through intense periods of change.
And there's a lot of that going on at the moment in the world. Yeah,
well, that's it. That's it. And I was over in my second period of transformation has happened recently, actually, very intense. Different to the first time. This last time has just been a real squeezing and a constraining of my life to understand it, a breakdown. I'll go into that in a moment, but that's the thing with transformation, is that this intense period of change often comes, or probably always comes, with a level of breakdown. And that is what we're seeing at the moment. We are seeing the whole of the human population, the way the world is going through a big process of transformation, and has perhaps wanted to go through that period of transformation for many years. But the human condition is such that we will try and resist this natural force, which is pretty stupid, really. I mean, who are we to mess with nature? But for me personally, the reason I'm in the transformational arena now is because about 18 months ago, I'd arrived in Ibiza. And it's funny, for the last few years, my business has not been doing too well. Had not been doing too well. And I'd get back to the UK for a little bit. I'd be like, right, okay, what I'll do is I'll find a place to live, and I'll really focus, and I'll really get this business going again, and I'll make it work, And then the guidance I was getting from life around me, which we'll go into in a moment, would not help me find this house. There'd be no houses. I don't know if you remember back in the lockdown, there were no houses to find. There's no property. And I literally said, okay, and this is what I do. I said, okay, if you want me to be here in the UK, let's find a house. If not, show me where I need to go. And I would get the signs that I had to go overseas again. And it would not make logical sense to me. I'd be like, but I really need to focus on this business that is starting to fail. Focus, make it work. Surely I should be here, but no, go. You'll know why. You'll know why you need to go to, first of all, it's Egypt, then Romania and Ibiza. Last year in 2022, it's Argentina. I was like, what? I'd never thought of going to Argentina. But I got to Ibiza back in 2021, and I thought to myself, okay, well, if my business is meant to be, then I'll know when I really need to work on it. I'll know when I need to make a decision on it. And it came in Ibiza when I got a call from my assistant. She said, Laurie, we can't pay the bills this month. I was like, okay, here it is. Let's have a look at this. And actually, it was my salary that was the deficit. And to make up the deficit in the bills, I had to stop paying myself. I was like, okay, this is the point. This is the point. What do I do here? Do I really stress and really put so much effort in to rescue this? Or do I just let go and let life lead me and lead this? And by that time, I was so fatigued with my life, trying to make it work, not understanding what to do next. I had nothing in me left to give that business. And I said to myself, to the intelligence of life, higher consciousness that's always with us, just said, listen, I'm going to let it go if it needs to go, or I'm just going to let go of even thinking what's going to happen with it, what's going to happen with me. I'm going to trust that life is going to guide me to where I need to be. Because throughout my process, I've learned more and more to trust life, that even the breakdown, like the breakdown of my health, the breakdown of my sales career, led me to a better place, even though it was challenging. And whilst I was in Ibiza, I was working at this community workspace. There was a lady who'd written a book there. It was an interesting book. And I saw her and I just had a word with her. And I told her what was going on. You know, I haven't stopped paying myself. Looks like my business is maybe starting to fail. Blah, blah. And she said, Laurie, just go and take some space. Just sit in some silence. That's what you need. You know, I was like, okay. You know, it goes against all the logic, doesn't it? You know, it goes against our system of saying, how do we fix it? Well, we do more. We think more. We just try. We push. But she was saying, sit down, take some space, have some silence. So actually in that moment, I felt absolutely knackered. And there were some nice sofas in the sun, in the Ibizan sun. And I sat on a sofa and I just had a little bit of a nap. And I kept on coming out these little naps and going back into them. And as I came out the last period of napping, I was given a sentence. And I can't really explain that experience apart from, you know, you'll have to have had it yourself. But it didn't come from me. It was just as I came out, there was a sentence in my mind. I hadn't even been thinking about it. It was given to me. And it was just, I want to be a transformational leader. And in that moment, it just made sense. It made sense. It packaged nicely all the experiences I had up until this point. But it also meant that I was going to have to go more consciously into this next phase of my life, to understand the transformational process even more and to trust it even more. And so with that, I spent the last 18 months letting go, trusting life, trusting that even if it breaks down everything around me, it's for good reason. If life wants my business in the world, it will keep that business in the world. You know, if it doesn't, it will take it away, along with everything else, and I'll come out better for it. And that's what's happened. For a second, only recently, actually a couple of weeks ago, my business has been liquidated. I've gone for a second time into bankruptcy, and my material world has collapsed around me. I'm currently at my mother's place, and yeah, it's a time whereby the forest has been cleared and it's time to allow new shoots to sprout up. But it's also time to start helping people understand the true nature of transformation, because more and more people will be going through it. And there's a lot of people, again, you will see it around you, who are resisting the fact that the world is going through a huge transformational process. And we're going to go through a huge breakdown. And we're going through that. It may be slow and steady. There's no need to push it or force it. Even the resistance is fine. But once we know we're going through it, is to accept that. And I'm here to help people accept it and to actually consciously face it and work with it rather than resist it. And so, yeah, it's a natural part of life. It's something we have lost our wisdom and connection with. And so it's time to bring that wisdom back and to learn how to work with it, you know, and to allow that wisdom to help create what we're going into, rather than using the same mentality that created the last world we lived in, the last lives we lived in to create the next. We now need to use a different level of consciousness, which this transformational process will help us get in touch with.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were speaking earlier, you mentioned the breaking down of society, which is happening at the moment. And what's quite interesting, the worldwide slogan "Build Back Better," that all the world leaders seem to simultaneously, start using. Well, before you can build something back, you need to break it down first. Right? So, what we know is that the so-called world leaders are breaking down this current world. But I guess the question is, what kind of world do we build back afterwards? And who takes charge of that? Is it the people that are breaking it down, or is it the rest of us? I guess it's not a question I know the answer to, but it's a question that I have. And I guess, what you're here to do is to help people make their own path rather than just accept what they're presented with.
That is absolutely it. And what we're seeing is, this is a way of creating a mass transformation to the same world, a mass transformation of people to live the same lives as one another once again, rather than find the authentic life that we're here to live as individuals and be on our authentic path. And that's the thing, is that this transformational stage actually starts with us as an individual. This transformation starts as the individual, because we are those seeds, those individual seeds, which need to be planted in the right fields to become what they truly are meant to become. Because if we try and do it by being led by other people, we're being led by other people's minds, their own beliefs, their own egos, their own shadows, their own wounds, their own wants and desires, and desire for control and power and money often. We don't even need to look at it in that way of true evil, which, in a way it is, but we don't need to look at it like that. We can just look at it like, if we're going to follow people and be led by people, then of course we are going to be influenced by them. We are being led by them into lives of their making, and lives of their making is going to favor them and not necessarily favor you, and it's not necessarily going to be a life that you truly want to live. So the transformation I'm talking about is the transformation of your individual single life. And once you start to connect with your own consciousness and the higher consciousness, which you always have connection to as well, then that is the only authority that you need. And that is the only authority you should be following. Even if you listen to the outside authorities, whoever they may be, if you listen to any external influence, you always come back to yourself and you say, how does that feel? Is that in alignment with me? Is that something I want to do? We've seen with what's happened over the last couple of years, decisions have been sort of almost taken out of our hands or forced upon us. And it's in those moments you say to yourself, okay, well, that's what they want to do. That's what they're saying. But how does that sit with me? If it sits with you, fine. Fine, that's maybe your path. If it doesn't, that's the authority. And this path of transformation will connect you back with the only authority that you really should be listening to, which is that of your true self, which isn't necessarily in the mind, in the thinking, but is more in the feeling, and of higher consciousness itself, which can sound way out there. Religion has unfortunately accosted our whole understanding of spirituality or of higher consciousness. It's like, as soon as you mention something like that, people will think, well, you're a religious, dogmatic nut. I don't believe in that. That's woo-woo, And this is the trouble as well, because most people accept we've got a subconscious. Most people think we've got a waking conscious, our five senses thinking-based consciousness, everyday consciousness that we use. But when it comes to a higher consciousness, it sounds daunting to a lot of people, sounds perhaps too religious in a way. But really, when you start working with your higher consciousness, you realize that it's just like a subconscious. We have an access to that, which is simply like I'm having a conversation with yourself. I can have a conversation with my higher consciousness and just say, hey, and you can label it what you want if you want to. You can label it the universe or God if you want to, or anything like that. You can label it your guides or your higher self, or you can just call it life or yourself. You can just say, hey, I need help on this. Show me, And that sounds very simple, very basic, but that's how simple it can be. We have, I don't know how many millions of signals coming into our brain every second of the day. And yet we're able to filter out what we need from that moment at any time. And this is simply doing that. This is simply taking a conscious influence over our sub and higher consciousness, our super consciousness. And the super consciousness really, as I would call it, has a much better 360 view of your life and how it fits within the world itself and all those people around you. So you might say, right, okay, let's think of something. Like, I was lying in bed one day thinking, right, I've got to leave this house because I've got 4 weeks to leave this house. My tenancy's up here. I've got to find a new house or go somewhere new. This was when I was thinking I need to find a house, need to settle down. 2 weeks later, still hadn't found a house. And I just said to the universe, to life, to whatever you want. I just said there in my bed out loud, okay, I said, okay, if you want me to be here, to work on my business, to find a house in the UK, find me that house. If you want me to be somewhere else, if it's for my highest and best good to be anywhere else, show me where. And as all sort of social media addicted people like to do, picked up my phone, looked on Facebook, and there was a picture of two girls skipping through the sands of Egypt saying, come to Egypt. There's nobody here. This was in COVID time. Mm-hmm. You can get into all these places and there's no queues and it's amazing. And as I looked at that photo, I realised Egypt, for the last couple of days, Egypt had come up 3 or 4 times out of people's mouths. And I was like, oh, I need to go to Egypt. By 10 o'clock that next day, I booked. And it's for good reason I went. The same with Argentina last year. The same with things like resources, because this higher consciousness, it knows where you need to be, what you need at that time, what resources you need. And it knows when you don't need resources. It knows when you need a breakdown. It knows when you need to go into bankruptcy. It knows when you need for somebody to step into your life, or for you to reach out to someone, or for you to go to somewhere, because it has that 360 vision. But the trouble is that it clashes with our intellect. We're saying, well, I need to fix this. This is where I want to go. This is what I want my life to be. And if I work it out, then I'll need to take step 1, 2, 3, and then I'll be there. And life's saying, no. First of all, you're creating a bit of a prison for yourself, because that's not truly what you want or what you need or what life needs you to be in this world. And secondly, you take those steps, then, you're going to get nowhere. Or it's, life is saying, let go now. Let me lead you. Right? This higher consciousness saying, let me lead you. And let's create what you're truly here to be and become. But the logical mind finds that very difficult. Yeah, why do I need to go to Egypt? I should be here. What are you saying? Go to Egypt? Why? Why go to Argentina? Or why I should be working on this now, or doing this, or or I've got an illness, I've got a disease. I should go to the doctor. Then I should take these pills, and then I'll probably be fixed, And it's the logical mind which often gets in the way of this transformational process.
So would you say that's the main reason why people tend to resist transformation? It's the egoic mind.
Yeah. It is one of the biggest issues is control. And, we're taught to have control. We're not taught how to work with greater awareness of life and consciousness and be in touch with ourselves and our feelings, and that we actually can live a life that we truly want to live at a deeper level. Because the control element is because we want to keep safe and we want to please people, and we don't want to have to step out of our comfort zone, and we don't want to have to see things about ourselves which might not conform to society's norms. So control is a big issue. And the key to that is to let go. But even letting go is a process. Let go and let life lead. That's what I say. Let go and let life lead. Control is understandable. We've been told for many years what we should be doing, what we're here to do. What's the image of success to live up to? And so control is based around many things. It's around this image of success we have. If I have a wife and a kid and business that brings me this much money and a house that looks like this, then I'll be seen to be successful and I'll be able to feel good about myself. I'm doing something right. What happens when that doesn't seem to make you happy? It makes you very confused. Think you're broken. Think, well, I should want this and I should be able to make it work. Why is it not working? So you control because you want to create an image. Because also, how are you going to look to other people when it's not working, when you can't hold it together? Going through a divorce, breaking up with someone, it's a failure. Oh, I failed. I wasn't good as a wife or a mother or as a husband. Or, what's it going to look like to my family? How am I going to look to myself? Who am I? It's very destabilizing from all that we've been told that we should expect of ourselves and how we should be and how we should make ourselves happy. So control, the fear of failure, our vision of success. We're all aiming towards this single vision of success, material vision of success. And that is really costing us because we're just trying to attach to this and hold on to it and control it. And the pressure to do that is causing so much illness in people, mental health issues, physical health issues. Because if you imagine putting all your energy every day to keep something working, to hold it together, there's a lot of tension, a lot of energy, rather than if we let go and we say, okay, actually, the life I'm holding together is not a real representation of who I am. I'm not really holding it together anyway. Behind the scenes, it's a fucking mess. It may seem like I'm successful on the outside, but I'm really not. I need help, but I'm not going to ask for it because even that's a sign of weakness. And I'll have to admit to myself and admit to others and have to be vulnerable. And then I don't even want this life, but I've built it and I've got kids and a partner and all these bills. What the hell am I going to do? We're holding this all together. And the breakdown is a relief and a release in a way. But it takes courage. And so often the only way we're going to actually be able to step into that and get out of the resistance is when we have no energy or will to resist anymore, to hold it all together. We just get to that point where we can't. So it's almost like transformation. To go through transformation, you almost have to be taken to that point to be forced to truly let go, because you just can't hold on. And that's why disease and ill health puts in a very vulnerable state where we can't hold things together anymore. We only have a certain amount of energy to give to ourselves. even then we can still hold on, still resist a bit by just managing a smaller version of life. But eventually even that smaller version of life is not serving us. And we're like, okay, maybe I need to let go a bit more to really now allow myself to recreate, the life that I want to lead. So yeah, it's a big topic. There's a lot we can cover. But yeah, control, holding things together is a big part of the resistance.
Get the Radical Health Rebel ad-free. Head on over to our Patreon channel at www.patreon.com/Radical Health Rebel. It's the only place where you can watch full-length, completely ad and sponsor-free episodes of the podcast. Plus, you can join the Radical Health Rebel Patreon community, where you can have a say in the podcast, watch exclusive behind-the-scenes clips, as well as early access to the podcast. That's patreon.com/Radical Health Rebel.
Just a brief interruption to this podcast to talk about adult acne. Now, did you know that 40 to 54% of men and women older than 25 years will have some degree of facial acne, and that clinical facial acne persists into middle age in 12% of women and 3% of men? I know only too well the devastating effects that acne can have on your confidence and your self-esteem, and how it can easily destroy your social life, your career, and your relationships. I know this only too well because I suffered from severe cystic acne from age 13 to 31. Over an 18-year period, I visited my doctor on many occasions, and his only suggestions were acne creams, harsh cleansers, and antibiotics that weren't working and were actually making my skin worse. After 18 years of struggle and thousands of pounds invested in treatments that didn't work, through my professional education, I began to learn that what my doctor had told me was untrue, and that diet was directly related to acne, plus other factors such as food sensitivities, toxicity, hormones, and balancing the body's microbiome. Putting what I had learned into practice, I managed to rid myself of acne over 20 years ago, and have been helping others to do the same for well over a decade. By teaching people what foods cause acne, what food sensitivities each individual has, how to optimize their detox pathways, how to reduce environmental stresses and toxins, and how to balance hormones, especially those related to the mTOR pathway, a major causal factor with acne, I've been able to help many other adults overcome their acne nightmare too. So if you would like more information on how to overcome your adult acne, please go to www.skinwebinar.com. That's www.skinwebinar.com, where you can also request an acne breakthrough call with me to see if you are suitable for my Eliminate Adult Acne coaching program, where you can once and for all learn how to overcome your adult acne. Now, back to the podcast. Yeah, and when you talk about, you've got no more energy left, or you don't have any vitality or health left, you can almost see that happening on a humanity-wide scale. That, there's a lot of illness, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of fatigue, and it's almost like, as a collective, we almost have to hit rock bottom before we can build something that we really all want, rather than just, a 1% of people want for everybody. And I guess that's the difference between collectivism and individualism. And we've seen collectivism in the Soviet Union, in Nazi Germany, still in China today. It runs on a system of collectivism where you have to give up everything about yourself for the good of everyone. But that means that everyone isn't living the life that they want. So that's kind of how I see collectivism, and that seems to be what our so-called world leaders want for everyone, is a world of collectivism and really stifling, the individual.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it, really? I mean, just imagine you have to look after a group of kids, say 10 kids. You got 10 kids to manage. You're like, right, all do this, and I'm going to make you some food, and it's all going to be, the same. And because you've only got so much ability to manage these 10 kids with different needs. So you can sort of understand, if you've got this type of power structure, authority structure, why they want to manage it in that sort of way. It sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes their life easier as well. And we all want an easier life in some regards. So it's almost that we have to start being more responsible for ourselves. And responsibility, again, this is one of the reasons we resist it, because we don't want to be responsible for it, because it takes some honesty with ourselves. Be honest with ourselves. We can't fool ourselves. And it takes a little bit of work to get away from the total comfortable life and easy life that we've created, which has been a world of, what's the word? Convenience. It's convenient to have somebody else looking after us. It's convenient to still be a child and have our parents look after us, aka the doctors, the politicians, the this, that. But the more convenient it is, like we give even the convenience to food, so we get convenient foods. It's very convenient, but is it optimal for us? Do the convenient companies really care about our health, or just giving us food that we're happy to shove down our necks and to pay for? So the more convenient our life becomes, the more we've given our responsibility to people outside of ourselves, then probably the less happy we will be in a way, because that means two things. First of all, we're reliant on other people, and they tend not to care about us as much as we care about ourselves, or even our families do. Yeah. And then there's on the second level is that we're doing convenience things because we don't have time in our lives, or we say we don't have time in our lives to do the more nourishing things that we truly want to do. Because, there's people working long hours in their jobs, come home and they've got kids, let alone fit in a hobby or two, but then distraction, social media, watching TV and all the channels that we have and we're addicted to. It's like this, it's just a pressure cooker. So this pressure cooker is building, and it's working brilliantly, because this is the necessary squeeze before we decide to just let go of everything and say it's not working. Because like, how much more are we going to fit into our lives and pressure ourselves into a life of just distraction, work, mental clutter and chaos? It's absolute madness at the moment with our phones and with everything that's going on. But we need that pressure to build before people will perhaps just break down or just say, no, enough, And I think tying back into this individualism against collectivism thing is that it's time for the individual. But we got to take that back again, we can't, this even come back to individualization and our own lives. It takes work to do that. So we need to sort of step away and realize that even when we go down that path, we'll still be perhaps looking for those authorities to make it easy. But we have to remember the only authority we need is our inner guidance and our higher consciousness to do that. We really need to come back to our self-reliance. And I think that then when we start as individuals to lead that transformation through our own individual lives, we're actually creating the new world through that. We're not creating a new world order through the collectivism channels. We're creating a new world. And it's not necessarily ordered as they like to be ordered. It's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be lots of creativity, many individual minds and individual lives coming to the forefront, creating new ways of being, new systems, new information, new knowledge, maybe new technology. But once we step on our own path and we allow ourselves to open up truly and express who we are and the knowledge we have, and allow these gifts to come through that have been suppressed by conformity, by just being doctrinated with education, and material wealth. These are going to be the new seeds and the new flowers in the garden, which are going to create the new world. But a small proportion of us have to create that first, because, if it all collapses on itself all at once, that may not be too helpful for everybody. But those people who have been selected for transformation now through ill health, through relationship breakdown, through mental health breakdown, through collapse of material wealth, these people have some real strength and courage, or maybe don't even realize that yet, but I know they do. If they really start to work with this, with the natural intelligence of transformation, it's going to take them on an amazing journey, and they are going to be planting the seeds for the future. But all at the moment, with the way we see it at the moment, it's like, no. This divorce or this mental health breakdown or this illness you've got, it's a mistake. It's wrong. Keep suppressing it. Take more drugs. Just do this, do that. It's a mistake. You're wrong. If we get rid of all that and say, no, it's no mistake. It's divine intelligence that created the world around us, this whole planet, this whole way of life. It's created this, the divine intelligence, the creative intelligence that runs through, say, a flower, that from seed to full blossom is the same intelligence and creative force that runs through us in our lives. But what we're trying to do is we get to a certain point of life, okay, we germinate out the seed and we just want to contain ourselves there. We don't want to grow anymore. We don't want to be different. We don't want to blossom and bloom and show our true selves, because that can be dangerous, and that's not what has been encouraged. We want to just be like everybody else. We want to contain ourselves. But just imagine trying to contain a seed or that intelligence. You can't. It's going to create pain. You try and be a seed and try and escape that seed, but it's not allowing you to break through. The amount of force that's going to try and germinate out of that seed, but it's being wasted and just going stagnant within the seed. That's what's going on within us. When we actually let go of all the energy and control going into that containment, we allow ourselves to bloom and allow the creative force to work through us. And we are here at this time of amazing transformation for very good reason. It's because we have something to bring to this era now. We have our individual gifts and talents and knowledge and wisdom to create something new. But it takes a couple of things. It takes courage to trust that what you're going through is exactly right in the divine order of things, and not to suppress it, and to let yourself go and let life lead you through to this next evolution of yourself and your life. And it takes trust. It takes real trust, but that is a process in itself.
So would you say there's any kind of key core principles of transformation?
There are. There's probably quite a lot to unpack if I was to go into them all now. I mean, it's really the core philosophies that I have are sort of fourfold, really. I've already taught you, really, I don't even need to talk you through this, really. I can just leave you and the listeners and the viewers with this. But the flower model, as I call it, or the flower model, as I sort of just explained, is a core principle in terms of if you just look at the flower and how it grows and wonder, does that flower grow itself? How consciously does that flower grow itself? Or is there something within that flower? And I would argue that there's a divine intelligence which simply grows through it. If it allows itself to grow into whatever flower it is, and there are thousands upon millions probably of different flowers, just like there are different, each one of us is totally unique in our individuality. Then look at that and just look at the flower and just look at that as a metaphor for your life. And understand that just because we reach 18 years old or become an adult does not mean we stop growing. But where in our life are we suppressing that growth? Where are we taking control of that growth? Where is our logical mind and our wants and desires and fears and beliefs holding us back from allowing that growth? Because when we allow that growth, it's purely nature growing through us and expressing itself through us. And we then take our place within the world as who we're meant to be, bringing our own authenticity to the world, which it really needs at this point. So that's the flower model. One of the big obstacles, as I've already talked about, is going through life as if what we want is most important. If we change our perspective, and basically I was, about a couple of years ago, after I'd gone through breakup of my last relationship, I was invited to a fire, shamanic fire. And I was tending this fire between 1 and 3 in the morning. It's a very sacred thing to do, to tend the fire. So here I am, man in the woods, at the fire with my stick. And I'm adding a bit more fuel to the fire, chucking a bit more wood on, and I'm poking it around a bit. But we're meant to be more present with that fire. It's there to teach us as much as anything. And as I'm realizing, as I'm putting wood on this fire, I'm like, well, why am I putting wood on this fire? It's burning very nicely at the moment. The people who've tended the fire before me have built it to such a stage. I actually don't need to do that much to tend this fire. What does the fire want? What does the fire need? I was going at it like, oh, how can I make this fire bigger? What do I want of this experience with the fire? Put more logs on. Because my mind was wanting something to do. My ego's wanting something to create. And we see it in the world now. Generations before us have built a fire, a very nice fire, quite a self-sustaining fire in many ways. And yet we come along with our busy minds and our egoic needs and desires and our issues of low self-worth. And we're like, what am I going to bring to this life? What am I going to create? What do I want? And this fire was saying, what does life want? What does life need? So when we actually ask, what does life want of me? Then it will start to show you. And it can be very different and very more simple and less hectic, less busy, more fulfilling. But you will find your place in the world, because that's why you came here originally, is to fulfill that space. So the second thing is, what does life want? These are two important points. And then it's about navigating life. So the flower grows. Yes, that's the internal process of the natural divine intelligence growing and expressing itself through us. But obviously the flower also is a part of its environment, and the environment helps to shape that flower and its growth, much like our life helps to grow us and influence us. So I've got another point, which is called Be the Ball. And it's basically, imagine a ping pong ball going down a little stream. We are the ping pong ball going down this stream, bouncing off rocks, twisting and turning, bomb, 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 floating and nicely navigating this stream of life. In actual fact, we're more like a really sticky stick, which gets caught on rocks, which clings to rocks, which doesn't really flow very nicely, spins around, gets stuck, and that's often how we navigate life. It goes back to, obviously, actually Buddhist principles of non-attachment, non-resistance. What we do is we cling on to our hopes and dreams and how life is, and the comfort of, I want life to be like this forever. I want life to still be like the 80s, but it ain't going to happen, unfortunately. I've still got to tell myself that. We cling on to the safety of the known. We resist the fear of the unknown. We resist what the future, what it holds. Because when you go on this journey and you let go of knowing what even tomorrow is going to hold for you, of who you're going to become. And that is scary. Once you really let go and stay in the present, you let go of control. You let go of trying to just control what you're creating even the next day. So we're trying to become more ball-like. Be the ball. But that is a process in itself and takes the journey of life. So being a sticky stick is fine. Just be aware where you are sticking and soften more so. And with that journey of life, the last part is how to navigate that journey of life down the stream. And I teach that it really comes from an inner feeling. So it's feeling over thought. We don't use this as much in the creation of this new world. We come to feeling, knowing. That takes experience as well. And then it comes with connection to the higher consciousness of life. That thing which is going to help guide you as well, which is going to guide you to what life wants. And truly what life wants is what you want. You're just not aware of it. So yeah, look at the flower, how it grows. Imagine a ball bouncing down the stream. Ask yourself, what does life want? Which is really just you to soften and surrender, and then navigate life with your feeling and with communicating with higher consciousness, just having a conversation and being aware, being present enough to see the responses that life is bringing you in your environment. Could just be a comment on the radio, or a name that comes up again and again, divine meetings with people, things like that. So those are the 4 steps. I go into that a lot more, obviously, individually and in the group work that I do. Yeah,
I really like those. So imagine someone's watching or listening to this, and, we're all going through, an unprecedented moment in time of change. What would be maybe some top tips for those people just to, help them allow transformation to happen?
Yeah, top tips. There's a lot you'll get through this. Top tips is one to trust. The first thing is to actually look at your life, look at the challenges you're facing, and say, okay. And you don't even need to trust it right now because this is a practice, but okay, just accept it. Accept that whatever is going on in this moment, there is an absolute greater intelligence at work here that is, is to be worked with. So the first thing is acceptance that there is intelligence at work, no matter what you're going through at the moment. And it is a benevolent force. It is a force for good. So accept, then, as much as possible, allow, So, okay, let go. So let go of the fear, let go of the mental rumination so much and the trying to problem solve by yourself and the mental work that takes. Just allow, soften and allow and let go. And with that softening and allowing, then come back to your feeling and say, what do I feel I need in this moment? What do I need? What do I want? For me, the other day, it was like, I need space and time. I need less financial pressure. That's what my body was saying to me. My mind could say many different things, but my body, when you go to the body and the feeling, that's really the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. So, yeah. And then with that, start having a conversation with this higher intelligence. It takes a bit of trust. This will be a process. Do it in your own time, your own space. You don't, you may not want to look too bonkers in front of people. If other people around you might think what are you doing speaking to yourself? Have a conversation. Just one simple question. And whatever challenge, just ask, okay, look, I'm in this situation. Just show me the next step. Really clearly, really obviously. What do I need to do here? Who do I need to meet? Or what course do I need to take? Or even what supplements might help me? Or what hobby should I do at this moment? It would be really good for nurturing for my soul. Any question, or, just guide me on the next step. What do I need to do? Where do I need to be? Ask a question. But the big key here, the biggest key, is to do it your way. Is to do life your way. Is to trust yourself. To trust that. And this is just this is an example. And I'm not a doctor, and I don't say don't go to doctors. Definitely go and get checked out for any health issue by a doctor. But what I would say is, but trust also that part of you that has curiosity to go a different path, that has a feeling that wants to go down a different path. Even if you haven't been down that path before, you might want to work with some, people in the holistic health world. You might want to read into like Paul Chek's work and understand that. Even though your doctor might disagree with some of what they say. And when the doctor does speak to you, if it doesn't feel right sometimes, or if you feel it's not the way you want to go, then trust that as well. Trust that once you start getting into the flow of life and you say to the greater consciousness of life, okay, I'm aware now. I'm aware that I need to start working with you. Once you get back into the stream of life, you're working with life. If you're out the stream and you're just working with the head and the mind and just what you should, and you're going against the flow of life, you're going against life's natural intelligence, and that takes much more from you than when you're with the flow. And once you get back in the flow, you will be connected and there will be benevolence there, and you will find that you have a lot more grace with your challenges and what you're going through by doing it that way. So I would say, do it your way and trust yourself and the way you want to do it. So there are a few things there. Well, that's what I say with the
awesome
tips.
That's great. That's great. And what's next for Laurie?
Well, Leigh, a couple of things. I do want to end on one thing I just want to share with you guys.
Sure.
Because I'm aware that there's me talking about transformation, being a teacher and leader in the transformational space. I'm aware there will be people who might see me teaching at this point, a point whereby materially I'm at a very difficult stage. But in a way I'm not. I'm here with my mother. I've realized there's much more support in life through this experience than you ever would when you're just trying to support yourself. But why listen to Laurie when he's just had to go through second bankruptcy, why his business has failed? What I'm here to say is that the failure is in the attachment to material wealth. If that's stopping you from getting on the path of transformation to an authentic life, that can stop you. And to say that success in itself is a myopic vision of life, that it's one head of a coin, success and failure. Success and failure, we're flipping that coin every day. And so when we detach from material success, we have much more freedom to go with the flow of life. And so I am here to teach transformation. I'm not here to teach how to be successful, because my version of success and what success really is not perhaps what you or many people view as success at the moment, which is having material trappings, even having enough money for the next day. That if life is guiding you to be without money and those material trappings at the moment, then trust that process. So, and I had to learn this the hard way, but it's a good lesson to learn, because once you have less reliance on material wealth and trappings, once you have more trust and you've experienced with the greater intelligence of life guiding you, you realize you can handle pretty much anything, because you start to have real trust. The world really breaks down to where it's potentially going to go. Then I trust, even though it can be very scary, I can hold myself more still. I can trust that it's for the right reasons. And that's what I'm here to teach. And when I was in the mountains of Argentina last year, I've been waiting for a conversation with this liquidation expert, because I was in talks with someone at the time about maybe buying my business. I'm waiting for 3 weeks to have a chat with this guy in this cabin in the middle of the mountains by myself. And suddenly he's like, one morning he's like, okay, yeah, we can have that conversation. And it happened to be an hour before this first mentoring call with this guy I know. So I got on the phone to this liquidation expert. He said to me, actually, Laurie, you're going to have to go bankrupt if you do this. And I was like, oh, here we go again. And I literally, after the call, I was in tears. I was in floods of tears, down on myself. Why are you here again, Laurie? Why are you so useless? Why can't you make life work? Why is it always such a struggle? Wiped up the tears, got on a call with a mentor of mine. I had not had a one-to-one call with him before. This was the first one of 10. And he said, what's going on, Laurie? So I told him. And he's a very intuitive guy, but also he's got a background in what I'm about to share with you. He said, well, Laurie, you know perhaps why you're struggling, don't you? I was like, no. He said, well, you've got a learning difficulty. It's like, oh. Ping, the light bulb went on in my mind. Just as I was told that the business was not going to go any further, just at the stage where there was no rescuing the business, I was told that one of the reasons the business has failed is because actually, for want of a better label, I don't resist labels or attach to them, but I've essentially have what's termed ADHD, or a collection of ways of being that would fit into that. It's not a learning difficulty, it's just a style of learning. But because I didn't know of this and hadn't accepted this about myself, I was trying to be this businessman that I wasn't meant to be. I was trying to force myself to do things I really wasn't equipped to do. I was trying to live a life. Throughout my schooling, I'd struggled. Throughout holding down jobs, I'd struggled, and I didn't know why. And I'd always beaten myself up. My self-esteem had taken a kick in. My self-confidence had taken a kick in. And I'd hidden myself from the world. I built a business so that I could hide. And here I was, no relationship, in a cabin by myself in the mountains of Argentina, suffering by myself because of the shame I felt for all the failure that I'd experienced and felt that I was. The reason I'm sharing you with this with you guys is because I want to share that the breakdown was as it was meant to be. The business was meant to go. It's no longer needed for me. I'm meant to move on to other things. But where I'm meant to go, now I need to know more about myself. And what I know more about myself is that I have certain tendencies which are not meant to be fixed, which are simply meant to be accepted, so that I can then create a life, again, more authentic, a business or a way of making money that's more authentic to who I am, rather than trying to fit myself into life. I'm trying to make life more authentic to me. I want to leave you with that because I am going into teaching transformation now, going to be doing some group work, do some one-on-one work, getting some informational products out there. But truly, fundamentally, I'm in the process still of transformation. And so I'm trusting life more. I'm letting go. I'm just about to go off on my travels again next month without the stability of a business behind me, an income, or any financial security. I'm going to have to navigate with using my wits and my connection to life and my trust in life. So my feeling was I need rest. And then suddenly I get a monastery in Thailand come to me. So I'm off to do some deep meditation that my mind needs, my mental health needs. And from understanding of ADHD, I can understand why now I need to really become more present with my life and more into my body and out of my mind. And from there, who knows, mate, because I only know what I know when I'm meant to know it. And that's how I try to live life in that present moment. Cool. As much so.
Awesome. And where can people find you online?
Yeah, so my sort of tagline is Transform with Laurie. So you'll see www.transformwithlaurie.com. Instagram, Transform with Laurie. Facebook, Transform with Laurie, most likely. Get hold of me then there. And that's still transforming and generating at the moment as well.
And do you have any kind of offer for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'd say is just contact me through any of those mediums or via my email, Laurie Lathom-Sharp, or one word, no hyphen, at transformwithlaurie.com. And yeah, for any Radical Rebel listeners and viewers, then simply send the code RADICAL25 to me via any of those channels. and you can get 25% off an introductory session with me, which is a 90-minute session, £120, so you get 25% off that. Or any of my courses, which I will be running very shortly.
Awesome. Well, when I said we were going to go for a deep dive, I wasn't quite expecting such a deep dive. So that was absolutely awesome. So, just going to thank you so much, Laurie, for taking your time out and, sharing your wisdom with the Radical Health Rebel listeners and viewers. And to all the Radical Health Rebel tribe, if you know someone who would benefit from watching or hearing this episode, please make sure to share the love and forward it on to them. After all, the mission of this show is to help people lead a more fun-filled, healthy, productive, fulfilling, and happy life. And if you appreciate my guests and the wisdom that they share with you each week, and you'd like to show your appreciation by supporting the podcast, you can become a subscriber at the brand new Radical Health Rebel Podcast Plus, starting at just $3 a month. Or you can check out a 7-day free trial at our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Radical Health Rebel, where you can also receive lots of exclusive premium content and exclusive discount offers included in your membership. Full details of how you can support the show can be found in the show notes. So that's all from Laurie and me for this week. But don't forget, you can join me the same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Radical Health Rebel podcast with Leigh Brandon. You can find Leigh at www.bodycheck.co.uk. That's BODYCHEK.co.uk. Please hit the like button and share on your social media and with someone you feel will benefit from watching this episode. So together we can help them lead a healthier, more productive, fulfilling and happy life.